Number 1.
Mercedes Toliver's goal in life was to be in the Air Force. In 2016, the 18-year-old had just graduated from Prescott High School in her hometown of Arkansas and spent her summer studying for the ASVAB test in Kansas, where her cousin worked at McConnell Air Force Base. She was determined to do something great, Mercedes's cousin, Vontrice Fleemans, told us. She wanted to prove that she could be somebody. But by the end of the year, Mercedes had disappeared. She was gone. Just like that, Vontrice said. It didn't make any sense. She was always in contact with one of us. This wasn't like her to just vanish. Mercedes was last seen just after midnight on December 17, 2016, at her home on Roston Road in Prescott, Arkansas. We just need her back, Mercedes's mother Felice Hopper told us. We miss her so much. Felice told us that Mercedes is a typical teenager and could be stubborn at times. They had an argument just before Mercedes left the house. She only had the clothes on her back, her cell phone and $20 in her pocket, Felice said. I wasn't worried at first because I knew she would not go far. But I should have made her stay. I regret that every day. Felice assumed Mercedes was walking to her sister's house about a quarter mile away. But she later learned that wasn't the case. Mercedes never made it to her aunt's house. Later in the day on Saturday, Felice went Christmas shopping. She was excited to surprise Mercedes with one of her Christmas gifts, an art kit. She loved to draw, Felice said. And she was good at it. I wanted her to have a real art kit. I couldn't wait for her to see it. Felice also picked up some clothing items for her daughter, but needed to call Mercedes to double-check her size. Her calls went straight to voicemail. I figured she was out of minutes, so when I had a chance later that day, I loaded more minutes on her phone, Felice said. But when I tried to call again that weekend, there was nothing. Straight to voicemail again. Felice said it was not like her daughter to not have her cell phone on. She had that cell phone in her hands 24/7, Felice said. She was always on social media. Or listening to music. She loved music. So when I couldn't get through to her, I knew something was wrong. By Monday, Felice discovered Mercedes never made it to the home of her sister, Doris Fleemans. After multiple efforts to find Mercedes, the family called the police. Doris told us she had no idea her niece was coming over that night and didn't find out Mercedes was missing until she talked to Felice on Monday. She was always over here since she was a baby, Doris said. But not that weekend. I saw her and her mother on Friday. And that was the last time I saw Mercedes. Mercedes and Doris were extremely close, family members told us. They went to church together and enjoyed watching old movies, especially westerns. She's my heartbeat. She everything, Doris said. It doesn't seem real that she's gone. Doris told us that it was not Mercedes's character to just run away. No, not Mercedes, Doris said. She always called and told me where she was going. I always knew where she was. This was the first time I didn't know where she was. The community conducted searches and went door to door, but Mercedes was nowhere to be found. Nearly 4 years have passed, and the family tells us they are frustrated with the lack of answers in Mercedes's disappearance. Prescott Police Chief Joseph Beavers told us the case is still open, and they are looking into all tips they receive, but said they haven't had any leads in some time. We had some leads early on, within the first month, and past that everything dropped off, Chief Beavers said. We haven't received leads at the police department in quite some time. Chief Beavers said they worked with the Arkansas State Police to track Mercedes's cell phone, but were not able to locate it. He said they were concerned because Mercedes had not used her cell phone or been on social media. She was a social media junkie, Mercedes's mom Felice said. Always on Instagram and Snapchat. For all of that to just stop, that's odd. Felice said Mercedes was not interested in going out with friends and preferred to be at home. She did go to a few parties and get-togethers with a friend, Felice said. But one day, she came home and told me that she would rather stay home and read her books. Mercedes's family described her as being a kind, funny person who loved to make people laugh and who never met a stranger. She has a big heart, Doris said. Always thinking about someone else. Doris told us that she remembers a time when one of Mercedes's friends received some bad news. So, Mercedes went to the store and put together a basket of treats for her. That's just the kind of person she is, Doris said. Mercedes's family told us they are afraid something terrible happened to her, and they are desperate for any kind of information that will bring them closure. I feel like I'm living each day pretending, Felice said. Felice, who works 12 hours a day in a factory and cares for her children, along with nieces and nephews, said the chaos helps to keep her mind busy. It helps to keep busy. But I miss her every day. I just want her back. Mercedes, who would be 21 today, was last seen wearing a red hoodie with a yellow shirt underneath and gray sweatpants. She is described as 5'3" tall and weighs 120 pounds. She has black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information on Mercedes Toliver's whereabouts is asked to contact the Prescott Police Department at 870-887-6779.
Number 2.
Pearl Pinson woke up late on the morning of May 25, 2016. As a result, the 15-year-old had to rush to get ready for school. She yelled out a quick goodbye to her parents as she hurried out the door of her Vallejo, California home, but took the time to stop in the front yard and take a quick selfie with her phone. She had added green streaks to her hair, and she wanted to make sure it looked okay. Pleased with the results, she continued on her way to the bus stop. As she did every school day, Pearl headed towards the pedestrian overpass, where she would cross over Interstate 780 near Taylor Avenue. Her bus stop was on the other side, and from there it was just a short ride to Jesse Bethel High School, where she was a freshman. The walk usually passed without incident, but on this morning, something went very wrong. Shortly before 7 a.m., several witnesses heard a scream coming from the pedestrian overpass. They looked up to see Pearl being dragged across the walkway by a Hispanic man who was pointing a gun at her. She was screaming for someone to help her, and her face was covered in blood. One woman took off running so she could summon help, and as she turned away she heard a single gunshot. Another witness would later tell police she had watched in horror as the man threw Pearl into the trunk of his car and drove off. Police responded immediately, and it was clear something violent had just taken place. On the overpass, they found Pearl's cell phone and several pools of blood. Police would later identify the man who had abducted Pearl as 19-year-old Fernando Castro, a local man with a minor criminal record, but no history of violence against women. Although initial news reports suggested that Pearl and Fernando knew each other, investigators later determined that this was not the case. As far as they could tell, the two had never met in person nor interacted on social media. Detectives were unsure why he decided to target Pearl, but thought it might have been simply a crime of opportunity. Although some suggested he may have seen Pearl around the neighborhood and had been following her, Pearl never told anyone that she felt like she was being followed or had a potential stalker. Detectives were sent to interview members of Fernando's family, but none of them knew where he might have gone, and all of them were in shock over what he was being accused of doing. He had never been a perfect teen, but he had certainly never been in this kind of trouble before. More than 30 hours after Pearl had been abducted, an Amber Alert was finally issued. It's unclear why there was such a long delay, although it appears there was some confusion about the vehicle that her kidnapper was driving. Investigators eventually determined that the suspect was in a gold tan four-door 1997 Saturn. His license plate number was included in the Amber Alert, and the public was told to call police if they spotted him or his vehicle. An officer with the California Highway Patrol spotted Fernando around 3 p.m. the next afternoon driving on Highway 101 near Los Alamos and attempted to pull him over. Fernando appeared to be alone in his car at that time, but it was clear he was not going to stop for the officer, and a high-speed chase ensued. Fernando did his best to lose police, even driving the wrong way down the highway at one point. Both California Highway Patrol and deputies from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office continued to give chase, and Fernando decided to exit the highway in Buellton, California. As he headed towards the town of Solvang, a few miles away from Buellton, police were able to radio ahead to have a barricade set up in the road to stop Fernando. Instead of stopping, he crashed into it, rendering his Saturn inoperable. Rather than surrender, he took off running, and a short foot chase ensued. Fernando fired a few shots at the pursuing officers to get them to back off and ran into a Solvang mobile home park to look for a place to hide. Fernando broke into one of the mobile homes. It appears he was attempting to take a hostage to give him some leverage against police. The frightened woman inside was able to quickly escape, however, and Fernando took some time to regroup. Residents of the neighborhood were told to stay inside their homes until further notice. Police were afraid Fernando might come out shooting at any moment. For a while, everything was quiet, and police tried to negotiate with Fernando to get him to come outside and peacefully surrender. Instead, Fernando decided to make another attempt to get away from law enforcement. Noticing that the homeowner had left the keys to their Toyota Tundra, he decided to steal their vehicle. He came out of the mobile home and raced to the truck, firing a few shots in the air as he did so. Fernando was able to make it into the truck, but police were not going to let him get away again. As he started to drive away, he continued to fire shots at police, and this time they returned fire. Fernando was pronounced dead at the scene from multiple gunshot wounds. Pearl was nowhere to be found. Fernando's Saturn was processed for evidence, but investigators found nothing to suggest where Pearl might be. They did find some of her blood in the trunk of the car, but it was only a small amount, leading police to believe that she could still be alive somewhere. Yet Fernando had been killed more than 300 miles away from where he had abducted Pearl, and she could be anywhere between the two places. It was a massive area to search. After learning that Fernando's car was seen on surveillance cameras traveling near the San Francisco Bay a few hours after Pearl had been abducted, search parties were sent to scour the area, particularly along the edge of the water. They found nothing to indicate that Pearl had ever been there. Later, the search would move to the Willow Creek area of Sonoma Coast State Park. Detectives said that they had received new information that indicated Pearl might be found there, but did not elaborate on the source. Several different law enforcement agencies were involved in searching through the park, but found nothing of interest. Divers, K-9 units, police, and volunteers combed through an area of land near the Russian River in Sonoma County, but again the search came up empty. Several other areas along the coast were also searched, but nothing was found that gave investigators any clues to Pearl's whereabouts. Detectives asked for all businesses in the area to check their outside surveillance footage from the day of Pearl's abduction to see if they had captured any images of Fernando or his car, but no one came forward to say they found anything. During the initial days of the investigation, police received a steady stream of tips about possible locations where Pearl might be. Several people called to say they believed they had seen Pearl, but detectives were not able to confirm any of these sightings. After a week of looking for the missing girl with no success, police ended the physical search for Pearl. The investigation was complicated by the fact that the one person who knew for certain what had happened to Pearl was no longer alive. Pearl's family was extremely displeased with the fact that police had killed Fernando, alleging that if the officers had been less trigger-happy, they might have been reunited with the missing girl. They also felt that police had stopped the search for Pearl too soon and feared they might never know what had happened to her. In an effort to keep the case in the public eye, the family held several public prayer vigils on the overpass where Pearl was abducted, and they raised money to offer a reward for information leading to her recovery. They created flyers and posters and distributed them throughout the state, hoping that someone might have seen something that would lead them to Pearl. Detectives continued to investigate the case, but very little progress was made. In 2018, they announced that information had recently come to light that placed Fernando in the Bodega Bay area shortly after Pearl was abducted. They conducted a physical search of the area, including a pond, but were unable to find anything related to the case. They appealed to the public for help, asking for anyone who might have seen something to come forward, even if they didn't think their information was important at the time. Pearl's family has been devastated by her abduction and continue to distribute flyers and hold vigils to remind the public that she is still missing. They are holding out hope that she is still alive and just want to bring her home. Police have said that they have no evidence suggesting Pearl is dead, but they still do not have a full timeline for where Fernando was in the hours between Pearl's abduction and the time he was killed the following afternoon. They are interested in hearing from anyone who might have seen anything unusual that day. Pearl Pinson was 15 years old when she went missing in 2016. She has blue-green eyes and light brown hair that was dyed green when she went missing. At the time of her disappearance, she was 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 130 pounds. She was last seen wearing a gray sweater, black leggings, a black and white jacket, and pink, white and black Nike turf shoes. She was also wearing a black Raiders beanie hat and carrying a black and green Joker backpack. She has a piercing on the left lower side of her lip. If you have any information about Pearl, please call the Solano County Sheriff's Office at 700-7421-7090.
Number 3.
The mysterious case involving the disappearance of Tammyetta Spaulding continues to haunt investigators. It's been almost 4 years since the Jackson, Mississippi mother of 2 had any contact with her loved ones. There are conflicting reports regarding Tammy's last days, but here is the information I could gather. On September 3, 2016, the 37-year-old took her children to school and then went to work at Comcast. However, she was captured on surveillance cameras at her job leaving early. WLBT3 News reported that she wasn't seen coming or going with anyone, and it's unknown what prompted her to leave. That day, Tammy spoke with her father, James Spaulding, on the phone. That's reportedly the last time anyone spoke with her. There are other reports that state Tammy was last seen on September 2 as she took her kids to school and visited a payday lending business. The unusual thing is Tammy just disappear and not contact somebody, said James. The police said her cell phone had been used just a couple of days after she went missing, but they couldn't trace that. Tammy's family reported her missing on September 7, not knowing that 2 days prior, her dark blue 2013 Chevrolet Equinox had been found abandoned behind a gas station close to Savannah Street and I-55 South. The keys to the vehicle were missing. A towing service moved the SUV from the gas station, and the vehicle was later tracked down by police. The car is currently in possession of the Jackson Police Department. Whoever had the car cleaned it thoroughly, said James. No fingerprints, not even Tammy's fingerprints, were found in the car. Then, something strange reportedly happened. A hairdresser named Emma contacted Tammy's aunt because Emma had met a woman who claimed she knew what happened to Tammyetta. The woman eventually called with disturbing, yet unconfirmed, information regarding the missing woman. Allegedly, Tammy's death had something to do with an ex-boyfriend who used his red truck to dispose of her remains. A lady told them they might as well stop looking for their niece because they would never find her, said Joystein, Tammyetta's mother. Because they used a lot of acid to get rid of the body, the relationship she was in. She was pregnant for one guy, and he called it off. She found out another girl was 3 months pregnant at the time she lost her baby. Tammy's parents are now permanent caregivers to her children. "I'm not supposed to be looking for my child to be dead and gone," her mother cried out. "My child is supposed to be here to bury me." Tammy's father believes the man his daughter was pregnant by was named Marcus, but he's not sure. At the time of her disappearance, Tammy was 5 feet 5 inches 5 feet 7 inches tall and approximately 345 pounds. She has brown hair, it was cut short and dyed blonde, and brown eyes. Both of her ears are pierced, and she wears prescription glasses with plastic black frames. When Tammy was 32 years old, she suffered a heart attack. 2 stents were placed in her main artery. Tammy is also diabetic and needs to take insulin daily. She reportedly didn't have her medication with her when she disappeared. Anyone with information regarding this case is urged to contact the Jackson Police Department at 601-960-1234 or their local authorities.
Number 4.
It's been over 3 years since anyone has had contact with Typhenie Johnson. She was last seen in the parking lot of her apartment complex in Euless, Texas, where she was living with her brother, Asher Johnson. While the family is close-knit, they lived all over the country, so when Typhenie went missing, they banded together to bring her home. Search parties were organized, and flyers have been put up, but Typhenie's loved ones haven't come any closer to finding her. The 25-year-old was last seen outside talking with her ex-boyfriend, 34-year-old Christopher Revel. The two dated for 8 months, but broke up 2 months prior to Typhenie's disappearance after she told him that she didn't want to be with him anymore. During their conversation on October 10, 2016, outside of Typhenie's apartment, she told him, once again, that it was over and she didn't plan on changing her mind. Asher said that 40 minutes went by before Revel came back to the apartment and told him that his sister took off with someone who was going to help do repairs on her vehicle. Revel immediately left, but by the time Asher caught up with him in the parking lot, he saw Revel close the trunk of his car and speed off. Asher said he found his sister's cell phone and sock left behind in the space where Revel parked his car. The frightened brother called the police. When authorities arrived, they did a quick search of the area and found Typhenie's car keys in the parking lot. Officers also made a call to Revel and told him he needed to make his way back to Typhenie's apartment complex to speak to them immediately. It was 25 minutes later when Revel reportedly returned sweating and breathing heavily. Police asked him why he was so flustered, and Revel told them it was because of the heat. "It wasn't hot that day. I love her and miss her," said Typhenie's aunt, Janelle Hoffelt. "And she's my buddy. I'm not giving up until the day I die," Hoffelt said. "I will find Typhenie and I will find answers." After Typhenie was reported missing, police focused in on her boyfriend. He denied allegations that he hurt her, but he still was arrested and indicted on charges of aggravated kidnapping with the intent to kill. He faces 99 years in prison. "It's been pure hell," said Typhenie's mother, Deborah Johnson Strub. "It's just unimaginable that this happens. You see it on TV and feel bad for the family. But until it happens to you, you don't realize how much pain it causes you." This isn't the first girlfriend of Reville's that has gone missing. The Star-Telegram reports that Toliver Islam went missing in 2006 and has never been heard from again. However, investigators stated that Reville is not a suspect in her disappearance. Typhenie's family has created a GoFundMe campaign to help finance searches, private investigators, and advertising. They hope to purchase billboard spaces where they will feature information about Typhenie's missing person case. Anything that will help to bring awareness to Typhenie and keep her face and name out there, Hoffelt said. We have to continue on doing this. Otherwise, what will happen? Her face will disappear. Detectives are still actively searching for Typhenie, but over the years family and strangers have come together and combed through 52 square miles of area on foot looking for the young woman. There is intel that suggests she is somewhere in the wooded areas close to Interstate 30 and Cooks Lane. Typhenie K. Johnson is 5'43" and was 125 to 135 pounds at the time of her disappearance. She has reddish-brown auburn hair and brown eyes. Her ears, nose, septum, tongue, and navel are pierced. She has a number of tattoos including an anchor on her right front shoulder, a heart on her right foot, the word faith on her left wrist, a feather on her upper left arm, an arrow on her upper right arm, words on her left rib cage, and a tattooed half sleeve on her upper left arm. She was last seen wearing a pink shirt with the word pink printed on it, black and white spandex pants, a black sports-style jacket, and black ankle socks. One of the socks was recovered. Reville is still in jail awaiting trial. Anyone with information regarding Typhenie's disappearance is urged to contact the Fort Worth Police Department at 817-392-4442.
Number 5.
One by one, the badly decomposing bodies of women have been found dumped in a North Carolina town, where a desperate search is now on for a 20-year-old who vanished while visiting her mother. 3 corpses were discovered from April to June in a 3-block area of Lumberton, sparking speculation about a serial killer prowling the neighborhood known for drug dealing and prostitution. Autopsies failed to determine what killed them. Then last month, 20-year-old Abby Patterson disappeared while visiting her mother in Lumberville. Patterson, who lives in Jacksonville, Florida, was last seen September 5 getting into a brown Buick in the same area where the bodies were found. Lumberton Police Captain Terry Parker said he's 99% sure Patterson's disappearance is unrelated to the corpse discoveries, according to Action News Jax. The dead women, he noted, were known to be on the street. Patterson was not. Lumberton Police, the State Bureau of Investigation, and the FBI are comparing notes on the unsolved deaths. But so far, police say, it's not even clear the cases are related. But we are considering it, Parker told us. Deepening the mystery, 2 women were slain in the same area in 2009. Both killings remain unsolved. It's unclear if authorities are looking for a link between the 2009 cases and the most recent ones. Lumberton police haven't returned HuffPost's calls. This year's ghastly discoveries began April 18, when authorities investigating a complaint of a suspicious odor found the body of 32-year-old Christina Bennett inside an abandoned home on Peachtree Street. Parker told us the crime scene was the worst he'd seen in 22 years in law enforcement. That same day, the body of Rhonda Jones, 36, was found stuffed in a trash container on East 5th Street. We all standing over there being nosy and kept smelling a foul odor, witness Delise Butler told us. And that's when they lifted the lid, and there was a body in the trash can. Jones, a mother of 5, reportedly had struggled with drug addiction. She wanted help, Jones' mother, Sheila Price, told the Fayetteville Observer. She's tried. She's been in several rehabs. Jones' friend, 28-year-old Megan Oxendine, described her as quiet, according to CBS North Carolina. "I don't understand how somebody could do somebody's child, mother, niece, like that," said Oxendine. "I never see her act out or nothing. She didn't really mess with too many people." Then, on June 3, police found Oxendine's decomposing body behind a home on East 8th Street, roughly 500 feet from where her friend's remains were found. Oxendine's mother, Sheila Oxendine, wondered whether her daughter may have been killed in a cover-up. "I don't know how much she knew, whether it was a little something, or if she knew who had something to do with it," the mom told us. Authorities said they have no physical evidence linking the three deaths. Toxicology tests aren't finished. Police searched the neighborhood with cadaver dogs, but found no further evidence, Police Chief Michael McNeil told the Robisonian. Patterson's disappearance is equally baffling. According to police, Patterson was last seen getting into a car with a man they described as an acquaintance. When she failed to return, her mother tried to call her cell phone, but the call went directly to voicemail. Police wouldn't say whether the acquaintance is cooperating. Patterson's family has issued desperate pleas for help. The family issued this statement: "Abby is a light to everyone that knows her, and without her we are lost. We pray that whoever might know something about her whereabouts will come forward, even if they choose to remain anonymous. She is not just a missing person, she is a missing daughter, a missing sister, a missing granddaughter, and a missing piece of so many people's hearts." The proximity of Patterson's disappearance to the dead women caught the attention of local and national media, and some are speculating about a serial killer. Maurice Godwin, a criminal investigative psychologist in North Carolina who is not officially involved in the investigation, said it's more likely than not that the three deaths are related. Considering that three of the victims were found in a 3-block area of Lumberton indicates that crimes are linked, and the killer lives locally, Godwin, who's spent years studying the geographical behavior of serial killers, told us. The killer likely lives within 2 miles from where the last body was found, Godwin said. Locals have been speculating about possible connections to the discovery of 2 bodies 7 years ago. On January 12, 2009, a person walking in the woods found the badly bruised body of 36-year-old Lisa Hardin behind a Chippewa Street warehouse. Police said Hardin had a history of prostitution and had been hit with some type of object. 10 weeks later, the nude body of 23-year-old Michelle Driggers was found in an overgrown cemetery roughly a mile from where Hardin's remains were found. Authorities said Driggers, who also had a previous prostitution charge, had been sexually assaulted with a sharp object, beaten, strangled and stabbed. The police chief at the time acknowledged those 2 killings could be linked. It could be coincidental, or it could be that someone is out there targeting prostitutes, then Chief Robert Grice told the Robisonian. Both cases remain unsolved. Authorities are offering a $5,000 reward for information that could lead to the whereabouts of Patterson. She is described as white, 5 feet 7 inches tall, and 140 pounds. She has brown hair, brown eyes, a bird tattoo on her shoulder, and a dark birthmark on the back of her left thigh. She was last seen wearing a white shirt and brown shorts. Anyone with information is asked to call the Lumberton Police Department at 910-671-3845.
Number 6.
Alexis Camry Scott is an African-American female, 5'1" tall, and weighs 140 pounds. She has both ears pierced, nose pierced, lip pierced, and braces on her lower teeth. Her nickname is Lex. She has several tattoos: paw prints on her right shoulder, royalty on her left arm, Trevin on her right wrist, Tevin Jr. on her right shoulder, and Lily on her left shoulder. She has a scar under her lower lip and stretch marks on her abdomen from a prior pregnancy. Alexis was last seen wearing a white cropped shirt, a black Victoria's Secret zip-up hoodie with pink designs, and light blue jeans. Alexis Camry Scott was born and raised in Peoria, Illinois. She was always looking to have a good time and the good in life. Her family was very close with each other, they always spent the holidays together. In July 2017, Alexis gave birth to her son while living with her mother. Her son had just turned 2 years old when she went missing. She had just gone through a breakup with the father of her son because it was an unhealthy relationship and moved back in with her mom and brother. Alexis Scott went to a house party on September 22, 2017, sometime around midnight, and was then invited to an after party in a house on Richmond Avenue. The cab driver dropped her off at the after party at 5:15 a.m. The cab driver later told police she was greeted by a man and he paid for her cab fare. This was the last reported sighting of Alexis. A witness told investigators that Alexis left the party at 5:30 a.m. on foot, but this information was never confirmed. She last used her phone at 5:08 a.m. She had been messaging someone who was at the party before arriving, then there was no other communication. The next morning her mom wakes up to see that Alexis did not come back home from her night out. She posted on her Facebook, "Has anyone talked to Alexis?" but she did not get a response. Alexis's mother, April Allen Scott, called the Peoria Police Department on September 27, 2017, and reported her daughter missing. Her family said it was uncharacteristic of her not to come home, especially because she had a 2-year-old son who she loved. The police interviewed everyone who attended the party as well as neighbors in the area of the party Alexis attended. They also searched vacant houses in the area but found nothing. Witnesses told investigators that Alexis left the party shortly after she arrived, however surveillance footage contradicted these statements. When questioned again, one of the individuals said they may have been wrong in what they saw, as they were under the influence of alcohol. In November 2017, 2 months after Alexis's disappearance, police conducted a search warrant on the house where the house party was held, but they did not find anything. Investigators also searched bodies of water and broad and cadaver dogs, but nothing was found during any of the searches. Police received information from an individual who said that there were items that were taken on the morning after the party from the residence on Richmond Avenue to a location outside the city and burned. This individual also told police when he opened the U-Haul van door, there was more blood in the U-Haul than he had ever seen in his life. After receiving this information, an extensive search was done with some cadaver dogs, and they located a burn pile that had appeared to contain the items that the individual had mentioned. It was later discovered that Alexis had traveled to Las Vegas, Nevada, with a male friend and another female, just 3 weeks before her disappearance, to make some extra money as a go-go dancer. During this visit, she kidnapped, drugged, and taken to Sacramento, California, and entered into sex trafficking. April Allen Scott was concerned when the 2 people Alexis went to Vegas with returned without her. Alexis had managed to escape. She was partially naked and beaten by running into the street and flagging down a woman who let Alexis borrow her phone. Alexis called her mother, who booked her a bus ticket back to Illinois. Alexis wanted to go out and let loose on September 22. Her family has said she wanted to move on and forget about the past. According to her family, they later found out that one of the men Alexis went to Las Vegas with knew the owner of the house where the party took place. This made them worried and feared she was put into sex trafficking again. Alexis's family believes her trip to Las Vegas may have something to do with her disappearance. They have said Alexis was scared as she believed someone was looking for her. If you have any information on the disappearance of Alexis Camry Scott, please contact the Peoria Police Department at 309-673-4521. Her case number is 17 to 22015, or call Crime Stopper at 309-673-9000.
Number 7.
Ashley's walk is for every Ashley who has disappeared. It's a walk for every Leo who is being searched for and every Arden who vanished in the middle of the night. Their stories are not unique, not in Native American communities, where there is an epidemic of missing people. So their friends and family continue to come together for annual walks and vigils with the hope of giving a voice to the voiceless and ultimately finding their loved ones. This weekend, family and friends and the local community gathered for the annual Ashley's Walk on Saturday, June 12, which honors Ashley Loring Heavyrunner, who went missing in 2017. The two-day event, which is also to bring awareness to other cases of Indigenous people and offer a time of healing, included searches for 26-year-old Leo Wagner and 3-year-old Arden Pipian, who disappeared in April 2021. Ashley Loring Heavyrunner, also known as Ashley Loring, was only 20 years old when she disappeared from the Blackfeet Indian Reservation on June 5, 2017. She's a member of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation in Montana and was enrolled in Blackfeet Community College studying environmental science. It's been 4 years since Ashley was last seen in Browning, a Montana town on the reservation. And there are still no answers on where she might be. It's a nightmare that never ends, Ashley's sister Kimberly Loring told us. And it won't end until we find Ashley. Kimberly said she first knew something was wrong when she returned from a trip to Morocco in June 2017. The plan had been for Kimberly to help Ashley move into an apartment in nearby Missoula when she returned from her trip. But when Kimberly returned, she was unable to reach her sister. Calls and messages to Ashley's phone went unanswered. Kimberly reached out to Ashley's friends on social media, but no one had been in contact with her since June 5. Kimberly discovered that on that night, Ashley had reached out to friends on Facebook Messenger asking for a ride into town from her family's ranch. Later that same night, a short video was posted of a party that showed Ashley sitting on a couch talking and drinking with people. Kimberly, who was in Morocco that night, told us she remembers messaging her sister, who asked for money, and Kimberly asked her if she was okay. Ashley replied she was. Kimberly and Ashley's close-knit family thought maybe she had lost her phone or was visiting a friend, but when their father was hospitalized for liver failure and there was still no word from Ashley, they became concerned. Ashley's mother, Loxie Loring, told us she still remembers the last thing she said to Ashley before her disappearance. "I went into her room and I told her I love you, Ashley," Loxie said. "And those words, I'll cherish forever." Ashley's family went to Blackfeet law enforcement for help, and a search was launched that lasted about 3 days, Kimberly said. 2 months passed before the Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA, got involved in the case. Her family began their own search efforts, and just 2 weeks after Ashley was last seen, the family received a tip. Someone had seen a young woman running from a vehicle on US Highway 89 on the reservation the night Ashley disappeared. Kimberly said they gathered to search the area, which she described as being desolate. During the search, at the northern edge of the reservation, Kimberly and a family friend discovered a tattered sweater and a pair of red-stained boots. The family is certain that the items belonged to Ashley, adding that the sweater was identified by an eyewitness who told the family it was the same as the sweater Ashley was wearing night she disappeared. Kimberly told us that the sweater and boots were handed over to law enforcement for DNA testing, but added they have still not received any results. "We keep giving them evidence and things we've found, names of people we believe are involved," Kimberly said. "And we get nothing back. It's frustrating. It feels like nothing is being done. If we weren't looking for her, I don't think anyone else would." According to the United States Justice Department, Native American women are 10 times more likely to be murdered than non-Native women. More than 1 in 3 has been raped or suffered attempted rape, and more than 80% will experience violence at some point in their lives. In 2020, the documentary Blackfeet Boxing, Not Invisible, spotlights the Blackfeet Nation Boxing Club, which opened its doors to girls, teaching them how to protect themselves and fight for their lives. The documentary refers to a common saying in Native American communities: when an indigenous woman goes missing, she goes missing twice, first her body vanishes, and then her story. Kimberly is determined to never let her sister's story be forgotten. So, armed with bear spray and a cell phone, she trekked up mountains calling out her sister's name, took every phone call from someone with information, and followed every tip she received, no matter how outlandish it sounded. In 2018, Kimberly appeared before the United States Senate Committee on Indian Affairs in Washington, D.C., to speak about her experience and what she believes was the mismanagement of evidence she says she witnessed from law enforcement in her sister's case. From the very beginning, both the Blackfeet tribal law enforcement and the BIA have ignored the dire situation that Ashley is in and have allowed the investigation to be handled in a dysfunctional manner, she told Senate members. This isn't just a reality for our family, but a reality for many murdered and missing Indigenous women's families. A spokesperson for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Robin Broyles, told us that the BIA, the Office of Justice Services, Missing and Murdered Unit, did receive some recent tips related to the case that officers followed up with, but those did not result in any new information. In reference to the evidence submitted for DNA testing, the spokesperson told us that the FBI crime lab did confirm they received evidence and conducted an analysis of it, but because the case is active, we are unable to provide any additional information. In the 4 years since her disappearance, Ashley's family and friends have not stopped searching the vast land of the Blackfeet Reservation, searching for her. The Blackfeet Indian Reservation, which spans more than 1.5 million acres, is larger than the state of Delaware. Ashley's case is now being handled by the FBI. Sandra E. Barker, a spokesperson for the Salt Lake City FBI, the field office handling the case, told us that the FBI continues to investigate Ashley's case. She would not comment further on details due to it being an ongoing case. No one has ever been arrested or charged in relation to Ashley's disappearance, but her family tells us they believe they know who was involved. Unfortunately, unless we find Ashley, I don't think we're ever going to find out what happened to her, Kimberly said. But she deserves justice. She deserved her whole life, but it was taken from her. Known for her contagious smile and zest for life, Ashley was a star athlete in high school and excelled at the Blackfeet Community College, where she was studying environmental science. Her mother Loxie describes Ashley as smart and athletic, someone always willing to help others, and someone who loved horses and the rain. She was full of life, Loxie said. She was this petite thing, but she had a big voice. She had so many dreams and plans. But all of that was just taken from her. Ashley's disappearance has taken a toll on her family. Her mother, who has battled depression and addiction, told us she has been partially healed by placing purple balloons around the neighborhood and on the billboard in honor of her favorite color. Some days are harder than others, Loxie told us. I know my daughter isn't here today, but I hope that by sharing her story, it'll help someone else. Someone who doesn't have a voice. Loxie told us she remembers watching the news and Lifetime movies about mothers grieving their missing children and feeling her heart breaking for them, but never thinking it could happen to her. I felt so bad for those mothers, for what they were going through, she said. And then it knocked on my door. In an effort to bring healing to the community and raise awareness to the missing and murdered Indigenous persons, MMIP, movement, Ashley's Walk was held Saturday, June 12 in Browning. More information is available on the Facebook page, find Ashley Loring Heavyrunner. But Ashley's mother wonders if they are doing enough. We hold walks and vigils and continue to raise our voice, Loxie said. But nothing is being done. We need help. We need someone to care." She added that she has been in contact with the FBI agent on her daughter's case and hasn't given up hope that they will get answers. "I know it takes time, but there is evidence that points to who did this," she said. "I just want my baby back. And I want her to have justice. She needs justice." Loxie, who now lives in Shelby, Montana, was in attendance at the walk for her daughter in Browning this weekend. The two event will begin with a town hall meeting at 10 a.m. Montana on Saturday, followed by a safety class for search groups and the walk at 12 noon. Searches for 26-year-old Leo Wagner and 3-year-old Arden Pepian took place at 2 p.m. and again on Sunday. They have been missing since late April, vanishing within just 5 days of each other. "We're not just fighting for Ashley. We're fighting for all the Ashleys and Leos and Ardens who are missing out there," Kimberly said. "It's been a never-ending nightmare, but we turn our trust to God. It's how we'll heal." Ashley was 20 years old at the time of her disappearance. She is described as being 5'2" tall and weighing about 90 pounds. She has brown hair and brown eyes. She would be 24 years old today. Anyone with information on Ashley's whereabouts is asked to call the Salt Lake City FBI at 801-579-1400 or 800-CALL-FBI.